So we both look very red today.
Yeah, and the house
lights
is red too.
Hubba.
Happy winter vibes. Happy winter
festive.
solstice.
Yeah, happy festive season.
Yeah.
We're trying to embody the festive spirit today, as you can see.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the story about why you got that t-shirt?
If you're in our video audience, you can see this wonderful sweater that I've got. Absolutely manic looking cat with antlers, and there's pizza falling from the sky.
Yeah.
There's gifts, there's candy canes, there's snow.
Yeah.
And this face just says everything that I feel right now. Yeah, I actually got this from a charity shop the very day that Donald Trump was elected for the second time. Because I was like, I need desperately something to bring a smile to my face, please.
Yeah, dark day.
Dark day indeed. Yeah.
Speaking of things ending, it's the Warner Brothers deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, also another very dark.
It's a dark time.
But apparently Paramount have put in a counter offer, and people seem to be more
receptive to that.
Yeah, accepting of Paramount, because obviously they don't have. Well, they're not like an exclusively streaming service, so they don't have vested interest in destroying cinema as we know it. So yeah, dark week though.
Yeah. What can we do though? Is it like just a matter of cancelling all of our subscriptions? You know?
I mean, I don't think boycott is going to work. I think it has to come from like the powerful people in the industry. Apparently, I mean, I don't like Christopher Nolan, but props to him. Apparently he did organise like the entire of the Directors Guild to like basically rally against the deal and like arrange a meeting with Warner Brothers to be like, don't do this.
Yeah.
So I think it really is up to the big dogs to make a stance on it, because there's only so much like me and you cancelling on Netflix subscriptions
for what,
like,
$6.99 a month,
right? Like
that's crazy.
No one else is going to cancel it as well, because for so many other people they don't care about.
They don't care, and also a lot of people like I hang out with a lot of non-film people, and they don't care. They just don't know.
They really don't care.
And you know,
it was really actually quite surprising when I did my medical trial. I was speaking to them. Obviously, I had no one to talk to, so quite often I would try and chat to like the nurses that came into my room.
You would try to chat to the mirror,
and I tried.
You were like, "Hi, what are your thoughts on this?"
I really did. I was trying to chat to the pigeons that were on my balcony outside my room. It was dark times. But I tried to talk to the nurses about like films and stuff when they came in. I'd be like, "What are you watching right now? Like, what have you seen at the cinema?" And they were all really like, I mean, I guess they're all like medical professionals, they're all nurses.
Heavily overworked.
They're very overworked, like the NHS is carrying a lot of strain.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that like none of them really like cared about movies, or like when I asked them about movies that they had watched, they were always describing them like, oh yeah, that was really boring, this was really boring. Like they just like didn't seem to like anything, and I was like, oh.
And when I went on another wrestling convention? No, wrestling competition.
Went to a wrestling cult. Yeah.
Went to a wrestling cult, as one does.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my roommate, because we were put into rooms. He was competing, and I just asked like, "Hey, what sort of movies do you like?" And every time I ask that, and I'm sure our film people in the audience as well, we always get met with the answer of like people putting themselves down because they don't invest as much time thinking about it, so maybe sometimes they feel embarrassed about, for example, let's use Christopher Nolan as an example, right?
Yeah.
If someone were to say like, oh, one of my favorite directors is Christopher Nolan, because it's one of the few names that they know, suddenly it's like, oh, but I'm a normie, or it's like, you know, overused, or maybe he's just not that good. And chances are they've seen a movie that they've enjoyed more than a Christopher Nolan movie, but they just didn't retain who it was.
Very true.
You know?
Very true.
So a lot of people don't like think about all these things. And I guess this also goes back a little bit to the deal, right? When I was asking non-film people about these sorts of things, they would often, when I was like, what sort of movies do you like? They would often name IPs. Yeah. You know, like there's Arcane. I've never seen it, but that's a League of Legends spin-off TV show. So they would say that. So they wouldn't say the names of any creatives or anything, but they would name IPs. And I think even though, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, company eats other company. You know, like...
Yeah, there's a lot of people that would just be like, oh, I like A24. And you're like...
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, whatever that means.
Director called A24.
Yeah.
Their Christian name. Yeah, I forgot.
But people do latch onto IPs, so in a way, like, it does matter what people do with them. You know.
100%.
It matters what people put those in and how much attention they put and care, and kind of like the balance of respect for the fans and also artistic integrity and, you know, all that stuff. So I guess we'll see how it goes with Netflix. Not to be complete haters, because there's stuff in there that we both enjoy with Netflix, but it's a sign of changing times, I think. Even the whole streaming thing.
Yeah. It is terrifying, because Ted Sarandos just seems so, like, his head is so far up his own ass that you can't see, like, how his greed is just, like, affecting this, like, primary human experience that we've enjoyed for decades, and he's willing to wipe that out because he thinks, like, oh, well, Barbenheimer would have been equally successful on Netflix. It's like, you're so stupid if you genuinely think that. Like, that is so insane to me, that you are, like, willing to, like, destroy an experience that has been beloved by billions of people just because you want to, like, grow your own company and, like, build, like, have a monopoly over an entire industry and, like, actually destroy people's livelihood. So yeah, like, I hate that man so much. He's reached the top of my, like, hit list.
Damn, tell us what you really think. you put his name in the death note. You were like,
honestly, yeah, like, yeah, fuck him.
But yeah, we should actually freaking get to the movies.
Literally
that we brought today.
Away.
It's a good yap session, though, much needed.
Yes, very much.
Cool. I've got my timer here. All right, I'm gonna start.
Introduce the theme of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
self-explanatory.
It's Koismois.
It's Koismois.
I'll be home for Koismois.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just gonna yap about films that each of us has picked a film that we like to watch around the festive season. So that's the vibe. It's a festive special
vibes,
episode. So yeah, to those who celebrate, Merry Christmas.
Cool. Yeah, Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and if you don't, Merry Tuesday or whatever it is.
Enjoy this time of year.
So the movie I brought is the story of this, like, upper class person. She's going through a divorce. She is, like, a little bit out of touch just because she's so wealthy. She's, you know, living in her own world pretty much. She meets this interesting young woman who takes a shining to her, directed by the very wonderful Todd Haynes. I'm talking about Carol, obviously. Very Christmassy, because a lot of the movie they do spend wearing Santa hats, which I find delightful. In a way, I start talking about class, right? Because in a way, I think it's kind of, like, super relevant to the movie. Where they meet is at the place that she works at, Therese, the younger woman, and she works at a toy shop, specifically selling dolls.
Yeah, she's like a sales clerk in the toy department at this department store. Yeah.
And from then on, they go into, like, a bit of an affair where they kind of meet each other every so often and they talk to each other. It's quite, you know, like a departure from Therese specifically about her life and what she's done so far. Because the movie takes place in 1952.
Yeah, it's in the 50s. I don't think it's clear when in the 50s.
And even though it is a movie about characters and about a plot and stuff, it is quite loaded with commentary. And one such way, when it talks about the social mobility of women, is how Therese doesn't say no to anything. All that she says is yes to this, yes to that, yes to marrying this guy who she's supposed to be engaged with, even though she doesn't know if she really wants to. Even yes to going on dates with Carol, because even though she does like her, she maybe doesn't even know why she likes her. So she's just, like, you know, completely kind of figuring out her way in the world. And yeah, they have this affair, and it kind of ends up backfiring, specifically on Carol. And then by the end of the movie, they kind of, like, are able to approach each other in a different light. That's kind of where I'm going to leave the plot summary for now. But weirdly, I mean, you're going to roll your eyes, but I've been spending so much time thinking about Pillion, for real, and it reminded me of that movie a lot. Specifically, like, the relationship of kind of like older, more mature person and a younger person, and how the dynamic operates, the kind of the interplay of power and what even just like what they know about each other. And also, of course, Pillion is about two men and Carol is about two women. So there's also like the whole gender thing, which we can get into a bit later.
Pillion's over Christmas as well.
Sorry?
Pillion's over Christmas as well.
Is it? Oh yeah, you're right.
It begins at Christmas Day.
It begins on Christmas Day. You're
Eve.
right.
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel like they're the bizarro versions of each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And yeah, we can talk more about it later because I have so much to say about the gender specifically of the gender kind of construct of the movie. But in terms of Christmas, in this movie, it is entirely portrayed as like a social convention, right? No, even though people say Merry Christmas, no one says like Christ be with you or anything like that. And the fact that she works in a department store, I think it's kind of like really the real backdrop of Christmas, the commodification of people and the time and the holidays and stuff like that. So it's interesting that it's like it feels like a Christmas movie a lot, but it doesn't have any of the traditional quote Christmas values that we talk about. I mean, it does have them in the background, but no one spends a single line talking about how much family, like that's or the real meaning of Christmas. That's less about receiving gifts and more about giving gifts. None of that, like bullshit. It's entirely about a social and economic spectacle and how society kind of operates around that and how it makes us treat each other. Specifically under capitalism. We've got the colored lighting. We're going into red tube territory right now.
Hell yeah.
So, that's a situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about my time. I've got a minute left, but I can cut it off here if you want.
Yeah, we've got loads to discuss. So
yeah, so we can just jump, go on, okay. And yeah, your turn. I'll set up your time.
Yeah, I'll keep it short as well.
All right, let's go.
So funnily enough, the movie that I also picked today was Carol. Great minds think alike.
First time that it's the same movie.
I know.
From both of us.
We've had many cases where we've both had same options on our lists.
Yeah.
And then we both chose like different ones by chance.
And we've had, especially the last couple of weeks, the last couple of times, we've had completely opposite films.
Very
just
different.
Very, very other end of the spectrum films. So not today though. It was bound to happen.
It was.
And it has.
And on a special episode as well.
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm glad about that. But yeah, I absolutely love Carol so much. I want to give a bit of backstory for some like history on the film because I think the production and development of the film is really interesting.
Yeah, tell us.
So it was based on a novel called The Price of Salt. It was originally written in the 50s or 60s. And I can't remember the name of the author, but she wrote it basically based on her own life. Mm-hmm. She was working in a department store like Therese in the film. And
Patricia Highsmith,
yeah, there we go. And she was working in a department store and then this woman came in like this mink coat and they also had an affair and she was, but she was the one going through a divorce and her child was kind of being threatened by being taken away from her and put into full custody of her ex-husband. And she also had a similar situation where she was having this affair with this woman and she was followed and it was their private conversations that were recorded and then used in the court case and then she lost her kid.
Oh, she...
Yeah, so it was based on literally her own life. It's a very personal...
That's rough.
...novel, which I had no idea. And... then someone was hired to adapt it into a screenplay in 1997, and they officially began development on the film in 1997.
Really?
So they were in development for this film for about 15 years.
Yeah, when did it come out?
Because this came out,
15,
yeah. So they were in development with this for nearly 20 years, which is crazy. And they had to overcome so many hurdles. Nobody wanted to finance it. There were so many scheduling conflicts at first.
The financing of it. We should get into that later.
We'll get into that, yeah. But initially, Rooney Mara didn't want to do it because she'd just done Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and that was a very demanding role for her, so she wasn't convinced. But then when Todd Haynes came onto the project, it was him that made her agree to do it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder.
So Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Kate Blanchett. Have you seen that video of Quentin Tarantino saying?
No.
It's so funny. It's like he's announcing the awards at the Academy Awards, and he's like, "Cate Blanchett."
But it does make me wonder that story, which I didn't know about the production.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what alternate universes out there. The movie got made in a different way. Who directed it? I wonder how many hands it passed.
Yeah.
And Todd Haynes did a spectacular job. It's not that I wish that anyone else, but it does set my imagination drifting to be like, who else?
Well, me too, because he had a very specific ideas for the film, and he was so excellent at like preserving and doing justice to the original story, because when all these like financial backers got involved, they were really intent on changing the script and adding in all these moments where the characters are basically feeling guilt over their sexuality, and they wanted to add in scenes of them basically having mental breakdowns over being gay. And then he was like, no, I don't want it to be that type of film. I want it to be about women who at no point in the film did they like express concern or guilt over the fact that they like each other or the fact that they're lesbians. It's just like a matter of fact, you know, it's just they love each other and that's it. And he didn't want it to become a film where like you see that kind of like torment over, oh god, I've got to tell people that I'm gay, like how is it going to be, you know. And I love that happened, because they were really, really pushing for it to become that kind of film. Yeah, no one wanted to back it, surprisingly not because it was about lesbians, but because it was about two women. People thought there's no way that like we just don't want to finance a film with two female leads. That was the biggest obstacle, which I think is really interesting.
Because no one wanted to finance it because nobody knew two women.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Wait, we need two female women? Actors for this? Or we're going to find them.
Tragedy, yeah, but it's crazy because I would have assumed, the financial issues would have come from it being like a queer love story. But they were like, specifically about...
And also a period piece.
Yeah, specifically about queer women. So crazy, yeah, that was a huge obstacle for them. I also think it's crazy that this was not nominated for Best Picture.
Really?
It was snubbed. Rooney Mara was nominated for Best Leading Actress, but the film was ignored, and there was kind of a bit of uproar at the time because all the critics were like, this is actually one of the best films of the 21st century.
I just want to see what they did nominate over this.
Interesting. Yeah. If it's a Quentin Tarantino film, I'll actually shoot myself. Yeah, interesting history about the kind of fraught production development being dragged out for like 18 years. That's so wild to me. And then it resulted in this really beautiful film. So I guess we can talk more about that now.
Yeah, let's talk about that a bit.
And also, I do really want to talk about it in comparison to Pillion as well.
Oh, cool.
I actually was thinking about that a bit as well. So yeah, let's get into it. I kind of want to, maybe we can begin with talking about class.
Sure.
And can we talk about the dynamic between Therese and Carol? Because I was reading this really interesting interview, and they were talking about how obviously in the film Therese is a photographer.
Oh,
and
true. Yeah.
She spends a lot of time, she kind of sees the world through her camera.
At first, she does it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, that's what she's does.
Employed. Yeah. And yeah, she kind of takes... It's the only part of her life where she's kind of taking control and ownership, and she has a bit more agency because she's the one taking the pictures, and she's kind of turning these people around her into the subject. You know, it's kind of quite... She's kind of taking ownership. It's quite powerful in that way. And I think the dynamic between them is so fascinating because Carol is quite like a dominant personality type. She's obviously very experienced and mature. And she's also got this like unique attitude towards her life that's quite like nihilistic, because it's kind of like, oh well, like I'm divorced, like I'm about to lose my daughter, like everything is quite literally like blowing up in my face. Her life is falling apart, so it's kind of like, why not take these risks, you know?
Yeah.
That someone like Therese wouldn't probably do on her own, because she comes across as someone that's quite a people pleaser. She's not terribly assured in who she is or what she wants. You know, she's very like wish-washy about like, do I marry Richard? Do I move here? Do I take this job? Do I put myself out there and creatively and all this kind of stuff? But the way that she has control and like takes ownership over herself is through the camera. And I think that's a really interesting part.
That's super interesting. I never kind of put that together. But yeah, you're right. And also there's this couple of lines where she gets her job through a connection that she makes through a friend who specifically tells her like, you should be taking more pictures of people. You should be more interested in humans. That's how she puts it when she's describing it to Carol. Yeah. She's like, I think I should be more interested in humans, which I think is like a kind of a funny moment for that. Yeah, really good. And yeah, that's right. When kind of like how she turns around the objectivity of people, kind of in a way objectifying people, but not to exert power over them, but for her to exert power maybe even over the narrative of the situation.
Yeah, you know? Kind of power over her own gaze. Yeah. You know, it's kind of how she wants to see the world and how she's almost like trying to frame her own perspective of the world and kind of figure out how she sees things.
But it's interesting. I didn't know that other directors wanted to, when they were developing the movie, right? That they wanted to make the movie more about the struggle of like them having to confront the fact that they're gay.
Yeah.
And there is one scene. You got too warm.
I'm sorry, yeah.
You were like...
Stripping off.
You were like, this is too hot. This conversation is too hot.
It's Carol, what can I
say? There is one scene where she asks her fiancé... Wait, I've been saying fiancé. Did they actually propose?
He proposed.
Yeah. But were they... when she asks him, like, what if a boy and a boy fell in love, you know? And I think maybe in that moment she is reckoning with a bit of the anxiety of like, what if I'm attracted to somebody, to another girl, right? You know, like she does have like that moment of angst. But it's also the fact that in that moment she's kind of expressing her own desire for once. You know, she's like, what if a girl could feel desire, period. That's the first part of the sentence. And then the second one is towards another girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that also in kind of like her photography, in the way that's like, I'm interested in these people because I'm so used to society telling me, oh, you should be this, you should be into that, you should be doing this is kind of what your life is for. And for her to be like, I'm interested in people, I'm interested in women, and that's okay. You know, like that's what my life is, and it makes me happy.
Yeah. I think it's, I also love how that's reflected in the way that the film is shot, because at the beginning of the film, I noticed that there are so many scenes that take place where the camera is shooting the characters from behind glass. So you'll see Therese like in the car, and the camera's outside the window looking in, and everything's kind of frosted in this like kind of hazy, like cloudy look. It looks kind of like milky and like a bit obscured. And
it's like when it's cold outside and when it's warm inside.
Yeah,
and there's like that
there's
condensation.
always this like barrier of like kind of film between them.
Yeah.
And like when Carol's on the phone after having the meeting with her lawyer, and she like sees the camera in the shop that she wants to buy, and it's like shooting her through glass.
Yeah.
There's like many moments where they frame particularly just these two characters, Carol and Therese, through glass. But as the film goes on, it slowly becomes less obscured, and it's kind of like as Therese is stepping into her own and she's finding who she wants and knowing how to express her desire and herself, everything kind of becomes clearer. But as it becomes clearer, it's also becoming more vulnerable because it's stepping out into the open, you know?
Yeah.
And there's more threat, you know, that's threatening to expose their relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just so stunning. The way it's shot, I just absolutely love.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
The tenderness of it is so beautiful, and like so much of their relationship is communicated just through glances and like through really intense eye contact and through just like lingering touches or like a hand on the shoulder, you know. And it's like, I just love the kind of the subtlety of love and how it's communicated in that way. And yeah, it's like its own like little world that exists between these two people, and it's there in the open, but like nobody else can quite see it, you know.
We can talk about it a bit more later, but I think that's an interesting point of comparison in which this movie and Pillion are opposites, and also in some ways in which, you know, generally speaking, making assumptions, etc., the male and the female sex drive are different, right? Because we don't see them. The girls, Carol and I was gonna say Joyce. Who the hell is Joyce?
You just thought Carol and Joy because it's like Christmas time.
Yeah.
The girl's called Santa.
Yeah. Santa and Noel.
Yeah.
That awful Anakin. Anyway. Anyway.
Yeah.
Carol and Therese are not kind of sexual with each other until a good bit into the movie.
Yeah,
right?
it's still like New Year's Eve or something. Yeah.
And they've also been through a lot before they get to that. They've gotten to know each other, they've gone on dates, things have happened around them, and they've got to know each other a bit more, and that's when it happens. And there's a lot of intimacy before that too. You know, I struggle to say they were intimate with each other because they had been, you know. As you said, they have these little touches, like in the shoulder or the hand. One of the things that happens towards the beginning of the movie is that Carol forgets her gloves, and then Therese, I was going to say emails. She puts them into the computer, and then she emails her gloves. No, she mails them to her, and like the gloves are in a way kind of like a very intimate thing, you know, because that's kind of like what covers you, and they're not all that thing. I think that people are particularly prone to be sharing stuff like that. It's quite a personal item, right? So they definitely cross boundaries into the intimate often, but they don't see.
Yeah, especially during that scene, because to thank her for sending the gloves, Carol invites Therese to her house, just like for a play date. It's and she's like, "Why don't you just come to my house?
Come to my house on Sunday, girl.
To hang out." Yeah. And she goes all the way to her house. She lives like kind of far out, like I guess it's like New Jersey or something. And while they're at the house, they share like quite intense emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
Because Carol has a big argument with her ex-husband in front of Therese. And that's like a really awkward thing to be privy to as someone that's essentially a stranger to her.
Yeah.
Like she has no real relationship with Carol. They're not even friends.
Even the ex-husband turns to her and he's like,
"Who is this?
What are you doing
like,
here?
What are you doing?" Yeah. And I think it's so interesting that like if Carol wasn't romantically interested in Therese, like would she have allowed that argument to unfold in front of her? But it's almost like, because that's the kind of thing that you would only really do around somebody that you know really well. I would not let that happen with someone that I just met, but if it was you, it would be like a bit less awkward. It's still awkward.
But I think in a way,
it would not be
Carol did that on purpose. In a way, we can get to that later. But yeah, they definitely cross boundaries into intimate situations.
Carol's kind of let her guard down around her. She's not trying to maintain any level of privacy. She wants to invite her into her life, and that's why she's kind of letting this unfold in front of her to kind of bring her in.
And when they, speaking about bring her in, when they actually kind of do the deed, it's actually like the one moment, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, where Therese actually says, "I want." Like, I have a desire and I'm putting it out there with the expectation that it's going to be met. And it happens, it's a very small moment, blink and you miss it. They're and then Carol goes to turn off the light and Therese says, "No, I want to see you." Yeah. And Carol kind of like obliges.
Yeah.
It's like, here are the girls. But anyway, all this to say, like, you know, all that happens, all that intimacy gets developed before they get to the bedroom. And in Pillion, it's the exact other way around. Where they, it's a little bit different in the book, because I've started reading it, I haven't finished. But it's a bit different in the book and in the movie, but in the book it's straight up the first thing that happens. And in the movie it's kind of like a bit later in, but still their first true contact is kind of like a sexual exchange, and that kind of sets the baseline. And then later in the movie is when their intimacy kind of like, where their emotional intimacy starts kind of like developing more, and they get to kind of entangle with each other in different ways. So I think it's different because it's very hard to ignore your sex drive as when it's like fueled by testosterone, right? It's like quite dominating. Whereas, I mean, I've never been a woman, but from my reading of it and my research of it, it's something that kind of like the female sex drive relies a bit more on like build up and kind of like context and like sometimes I've heard a lot of women describe that the build up of desire is more fun than the actual release of it, whereas the complete opposite for men. Again, generally speaking, making assumptions, etc. And in that way, I find like, oh my god, like the exact like opposite movies. It's the same story in a way, but they're on opposite trajectories. So I found that was like interesting in a way.
It is interesting because in Pillion, Harry Melling's character, what's he called?
Colin.
Oh,
Colin.
Colin is on a similar trajectory to Therese, in that he's learning how to articulate his desire and kind of step into his own.
So sorry to interrupt you. We've been talking about Pillion so much. At this point, it's like a 2-movie thing. Do you want to quickly describe the plot, basically? Oh, yeah. The plot of Pillion?
Yeah,
Just give our lovely listeners who haven't seen the movie a quick brief recap.
So, Pillion, it's just been released in cinemas, and it's being described as a dom-com. Yeah, it's about these two men, and they kind of embark on this like dominant-submissive relationship, and they're in this biker gang. But it's really about Colin kind of learning how to express boundaries and how to express his desire and take ownership of that. But it's also about the man that he's in this relationship with, played by Alexander Skarsgård, Ray, and about Ray's perception of intimacy being broadened and challenged in a way that is kind of uncomfortable to him, and it's kind of uncomfortable to both of them. They both realise that they want different things from this relationship, and it's about the kind of friction that comes from expressing desire and wanting different things from intimacy.
So kind of building off what you were saying before, in that way, even though there's a lot of similarities, but in that way the figures of Ray and Carol are complete opposites, right? Because Ray is like completely closed off. You don't actually learn all that much about him. You don't know what he does for a job. You don't know his age.
It's very
secretive. Don't know. He doesn't let anything out. Whereas Carol, as we were saying before, does. She welcomes Therese in. She brings her into her world, and has these like as we said, the argument with the ex-husband there in front of her, and in a way. You might disagree, that's all right. But in a way, I feel like that's also a way of Carol exerting control, because by kind of like putting, she puts Therese in this uncomfortable situation almost as like a test.
Yeah.
To be like, are you going to put up with this? Are you going to be repelled and be like, I actually don't want anything to do with this? Or if you stay, it's only going to make you want me more.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, she's kind of testing, like, do you desire me? Because if you did, then you would want to come back even after this.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting. That shot after she leaves her house really is so upsetting, where Therese is on the train, she's leaving Carol's house, and then she starts crying on the train. And it's really upsetting because you kind of realise that, I don't know, not an awful lot has happened, but Carol is being a little bit, she kind of snaps at Therese, and she says something a little bit like unkind, and Therese crying over that is the first time we see like a very clear indication of how she's feeling. For most of the film, she's quite guarded in her emotions, and like she doesn't really let too much show, but her emotions kind of bubble to the surface in that scene. You realise, she must really care for Carol, and she if she feels hurt by this situation, it's because
this relationship is important to her.
Yeah, she cares for her, because they've literally had like one encounter at that point. It's it's very intense.
Shout out to all the people who cry in public transport. That's me. I don't know what it says about me, but crying in front of somebody is hard. Yeah. But crying in the train, crying on the bus,
I've cried on the tube so many times.
Well, when I was on the bus back from watching Pillion, I was crying on the bus.
Wow.
It
is intense.
We should make a compilation of people crying on public transport movie.
Yeah, it's so funny though. I've done it so many times. No one has ever asked me if I'm okay.
No.
And I've done it like I was crying on the District line, and it was like packed because it was like rush hour period. And I just found out I didn't get this job, but it was on the last day of me leaving this other job, and I was holding this like big bunch of roses because my colleagues gave them to me. And I was just crying, holding these roses, and like proper like floods of tears. Not one person said anything else.
Maybe in a way, not to get too philosophical about it, but maybe in a way that's why we do it. Because if you were to start crying right now, I would be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
What can I do? And maybe in a way almost even be nervous if I weren't comfortable with emotion to be like, what's going on? Like, let me make the situation right. Whereas in public, and specifically in public transport, we're anonymous.
Yeah.
We're nobodies.
Especially in London, you know that no one gives a shit about
no one cares.
Yeah.
And that way, like, you can just cry knowing fully that even though there's strangers there, they're not going to intervene. And you're never going to see them again, so they might as well not even be there.
It's quite freeing, because I remember the most jarring moment of that particular experience was me leaving the tube, and then I bumped into my flatmate on the street, and I was more embarrassed about seeing my flatmate while I was crying than any of those 50 people on the carriage that had seen me literally blubbering like an idiot. Anyway,
little moments like that. This movie is just so packed with all of these like really deep telling situations.
It really is a masterclass in like kind of human psychology, because it's all communicated similar to The Age of Innocence actually, and kind of people, because it's like it's a period piece, it's set in the 50s, people are communicating in this more like, they have to be secretive about the way they express desire, especially for people that are queer. So like for Carol and Therese, they have to find ways to tell each other how they feel without actually saying it for so much of the film. And you just see the language of love portrayed in an entirely different way because it's through like a queer lens. Like when you're watching straight people in cinema, like there is no need for coding because everything can be out in the open. You can run to find someone in an airport and tell them you love them, or stand outside their door and give them flowers
and serenade them for everyone to hear.
With a boombox on your shoulder. But
straight people don't need to come out of the closet. What's the deal with that?
Right, exactly. They should.
No, they should stay there.
Get back in the closet. But for Carol and Therese, I just love that you see the communication of love explored in a completely different way, and it's so much more meaningful because it's not like every tiny moment like really counts, because you never know if there's going to be another one, and like the relationship is going to be stripped away from you, like that final scene slash the beginning scene. It's kind of a brief encounter, like the end of the film.
What's it called? In extrema res. It's like this Latin term which means that the beginning of the story is the end, and then the beginning, you travel back, you see it develop, and then you get back to the end, which is where you started.
The end is the beginning.
Yeah, there's in extrema res, and then in media res, which is when the story starts in the middle.
Interesting.
Anyway,
that's cool.
It happens in that. Yeah, there's that moment where they see each other. Chance encounter that you were saying.
Brief encounter. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because in Pillion, like nothing about the way they physically communicate is discreet or subtle. In fact, but it is in terms of the emotional undercurrent, because there are like small things that they do to each other, particularly Colin, where he's trying to communicate to Ray that he wants a more like, for lack of a better word, like normal like relationship. Like he almost wants to imitate like the kind of traditions of like a heterosexual relationship within their relationship. He's like, I want to have brunch with you, I want to go into town on a Saturday and go to the cinema, and Ray is very much like, you can't even sleep in my bed, you have to sleep on the floor, like you've got to wear a dog collar, like all those kind of stuff.
DHSM, you guys, default heterosexual sadomasochism, it's real. Sorry to interrupt, but there's another you're on the topic of Pillion, another thing in which the movies have a scene, or kind of compilation of scenes where it's like the same, where there's a scene when they're in a hotel, I think, and Therese and Carol are feminizing each other.
They're doing makeup.
Yeah. It's like, it reminded me of her job, right? Because she works with dolls, which are like supposed to be like all pretty, and there's a scene where like these two women are like indulging in their femininity, and a lot of like lesbian relationships in real life, oftentimes the women go for different aesthetics, same with men, right? But there's that horrible term, you know, the lipstick lesbian or whatever, and then there's like the butch one, and you see that a lot on the time. But here that's not the case. Here you have both women who are like, and they're like enjoying putting lipstick on each other and like putting the perfume and being like, oh, smell this and oh, smell me, and oh my god, like, you know, it's like they're playing dress up with each other. And the same happens in Pillion. There's at the beginning of the movie, Colin has longer hair. That's a complete flippin' stem for me. Colin. Anyway, he's got like longer hair, and Ray has some buzz cut, and he gets put in leather and stuff. So in that way, like, they're indulging in the like masculine dress up.
It's interesting because in that one though, the kind of Ray is dressing up Colin to fit the type of person that he wants to be in a relationship with. He's doing it because he can't quite accept Colin as he is. It's like, if I'm gonna be with you intimately, then you at least have to like look the part for what I want from a partner.
And in the book, that's totally true. And in the book, another like additional step to that, which doesn't happen in the movie, or at least we don't see, is that when he kind of moves in, Colin brings his toiletries with him, and without telling him anything, Ray chucks anything that has a scent. His deodorant, his cologne, he chucks it because he wants to like control in a way.
Yeah, he's got to be like a blank canvas that he can project his desires onto, and like any trace of individuality is like an interruption to that fantasy that he's creating. But in Carol, they're not dressing each other up to mold each other into a person that they want to be with. It's almost like there are so few avenues of expression for women at that time, and they both know that they don't fit into the traditional one because they're queer. Yeah. And it's kind of like a fun thing to like dress up and pretend to be.
Yeah, it's like a game.
The only.
It's like they're dolls.
Accepted.
And they're just having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because at the end of the film, you do see Therese stepping into like a different way of expressing herself. Like she styles her hair differently, she dresses differently. Yeah. She's at this like house party at the end, and there are these like other kind of like coded like lesbians in the corner of the room, and she kind of like glances at them quite like knowingly, and you get the feeling that she's kind of stepped into her own way of expressing her sexuality.
Because there's another scene earlier, kind of towards the middle, where these two women who we never know, but we're assumed they're lesbian coded. We're assumed that they're a couple, or at least they're friends. And they look at Therese, and she's like a little bit like unsettled by it, or like troubled. And then at the end of the movie, she welcomes that.
Yeah,
that
gaze. It's a different kind of gaze.
There's a character, unless you want to say anything more. No. There's a character that I kind of want to briefly discuss because he's not the center of the movie, and with good reason. But I have to say about Carol's ex-husband. Harge.
Interesting name. Yeah. Very interesting names, is because the daughter's called Tinsy? Mindy?
Renesmee?
Rindy? Renesmee, yeah.
Rindy.
Rindy, Harge, they're quite interesting names. Yeah. Rindy's a really nice name, actually.
It's nice, it's cute. But yeah, anyway, this guy, Harge, in a way, I felt bad for him. Because, like, don't get me wrong, he is definitely the antagonist of the story. And knowingly, he's like, today, I'm going to destroy her happiness.
I'm gonna take away her
I will create problems on purpose. Yeah. Like 100%. I'm not a Harge apologist. But what I do feel bad for him is that there's this other woman with whom Carol had a relationship before, but they're also like longtime friends. Yeah. So even though it didn't work exactly with them as a couple, they're still in each other's lives, and they still value each other a lot, and they're important to each other. So
Abby, played by Sarah Paulson.
By the wonderful Sarah Paulson, which Joel has met, by the way.
What?
Yeah, super cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. Damn. So there's a scene where I'm not sure if she is, but Harge thinks that Carol is with Abby. So he goes to her, and they have a little one-to-one, which I thought was a brilliant scene because you never get to see kind of the perspective of the scorned ones, the ones left behind, and to see them talk to each other, I was like, brilliant, really love it. But in it, it's like made clear to Harge by Abby, by Abby, how like Harge's version of love is like control, right? And at one point, he's like desperate, and he tells Abby, "I love her." And Abby's like, sorry, can't help you with that, bro. And I was like, oh, rough. Yeah. But Harge has this like need to control Carol and her sexuality. And while it does manifest in a malicious way, to him it's not malicious.
Yeah.
Because to him, that's how men express love.
Yeah.
He's not... He loves her so much, but doesn't have a way of understanding what she's going through, what she feels, and as a result, he has no empathy for her. Yeah. So this is like, not to be completely, social justice warrior or whatever, like, snowflake, but this is a way in which I feel like the patriarchy lets men down.
100%.
Right? Yeah. Because if Harj were able to recognize what Carol was going through and the truth of her words and her emotional state, then he would also be more at peace with the situation. Yeah. But there's this huge uncertainty which he is just not equipped to emotionally understand.
Yeah.
And that completely sets him off. And he becomes the villain because he doesn't understand.
100%.
And I just felt bad for him because, like, he just got put into a world where he was told that he was expected to have control over his partner, and then given none of the tools to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah. It is sad.
Rough times.
And I do feel the same, because I think love has previously been sold to men as like this thing of ownership. It's like you obtain a woman and then like she is your property, like you own her, and like the whole idea of being a man, like you said, it's about control. It's like you're the man of the house, you control the family, the finances, your wife, all this kind of stuff. And you do feel for him in a way, because you do understand the fact that he really loves her, and he's so conflicted about what's happened in the relationship because he doesn't understand it, but because he doesn't have the emotional tools to understand what's happened or be able to see from her perspective, or he doesn't have emotional intelligence because that's not marketed as something that's like relevant to men in any way at that time, then he's just completely spiraling and trying to do what he can to hold on to this love, because there's no other thing that he can do.
Hurting her.
Yeah, and it's only hurting her more and damaging any prospects of them getting back together, if that was on the cards,
if that was around the table. And also, poor Wendy is in the middle of it.
Crossfire.
Getting it from both sides.
Yeah. It is rough. Yeah.
And on the topic of sexism, unfortunate that we have to discuss, but this movie was produced by the Weinsteins. Yeah, rough times. And I was telling Joel about it. I was telling my husband. I was like, oh, I love this movie. I wouldn't change anything about it. It's so good. And then you see the opening credits and you're like, fuck. Yeah. And I was telling Joel about it. And it actually makes sense a little bit with how you were telling how this was like a very troubled production. Because he was saying like, maybe the movie got made because he put his clout on the line.
For sure.
We don't know what he did, like literally what the day-to-day of his involvement with the movie was. Maybe he was super involved, maybe he was just ticking boxes. We don't know.
Yeah.
But a potential possibility is that he was able to move people so that the movie could happen. And I guess it just shines a light on how complex the subject of like power relationships and kind of like the entertainment industry is, because he has destroyed careers.
Yeah, he's
unquestionably
a manipulator.
Yeah. So. He did horrible things, which don't deserve, or well, not. It's not for anyone but the victims to apologize. To forgive. And that's not a matter of let the courts decide. It's true. But there is also the other side where like he did use his influence to make stories like these happen.
It is interesting because I think in order to be successful and powerful in a business like Hollywood, I think you do have to, obviously people do it to various different degrees, but you do have to sacrifice your integrity and like your morals to get ahead in some way. And some people do that to a very small degree and some people do that to a very large degree. But I think the people that achieve the most power in the industry are the ones that do it the most. And so for somebody like Weinstein, clearly he thrives in a business like Hollywood because he can be his like full, disgusting, egotistical, manipulative self, and he can achieve power through doing it. But also those qualities benefit the work that you're doing in an industry like that, because it's an industry with no morals where like anything goes, you know, and he can use that to
it's a business where
the advantage of a film like this, you know, that was clearly so struggling that it needed like an absolute brute force behind it to bring it out into the open.
Just make it happen.
Yeah, so it's
a complicated issue, but in a way I'm glad that the movie exists. You know,
of course.
I really enjoyed the movie. I'm glad I didn't know about this production troubles, and I'm glad that they were able to find a way to make it work. Honestly, you know, hats off to everyone. Not only we were just now describing what it must have taken to produce a film, but also all of the production designers, the writers, and how they adapted the book. The actors, everyone.
Like how they didn't sacrifice on anything for the look and the integrity of the story, you know, like they shot it on 16mm film. That's expensive as hell.
Expensive, yeah.
Obviously the film is set in New York. They knew they couldn't afford to set it in New York, but they managed to find streets in like somewhere in Canada that like looked the same. So they fought like tooth and nail to stay true to the story and to what it was about. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't just the ones. Elizabeth Carlson, great producer, and she was also like heavily like fighting for the film.
She was fighting for her
life. I'm crediting it to her. Yeah. Like,
so let the history books show her name.
Yeah, in my mind, they just opened movie magic. They made a budget, and shooting out of there. But yeah, I also do want to talk about the relevance of both films being shot over Christmas, because I do think that's really interesting. Because, like you said, Christmas is a time of tradition. In the kind of like Christian calendar or just like calendar of tradition, it's a time for family. It's a very like, when you look at it, kind of plainly, it's a very heteronormative holiday. It's very much like postcards with like the mom and dad and the kids on it. And
Three kids and a dog.
It's like the nuclear family personified at like that time of year. You know, it's like where like that really flourishes. And I think it's really interesting that both films. It's almost like particularly in Carol, like they need the cover of this spectacle in order to be able to embark on this relationship. It's like everyone else is so focused on tradition and like upholding these like kind of traditional values that they're given enough kind of secrecy to be able to explore their connection, you know. Because at the beginning of the film, you see that there are all these like obligations for Carol. Like he's like, please come to this event. Like, please come to this dinner. Please come to Christmas with my parents. It's all about like upholding a certain image, and it's almost like because everyone is so obsessed with upholding this image that they can kind of forget what's happening with other people and like not pay too much attention to it. But in Pillion, it's quite different because it's like he's out, it's set now, he's literally having like, it's Christmas Eve and he's with his family and he's like, I'm gonna go like meet this guy for a date, and I'm like, oh good luck, like hope you have a little kiss, you know? And they goes off and they have their like super awkward blowjob and then he just like goes home. So Christmas isn't really about like, it's not like a blanket to hide anything, it's I don't know, it's kind of something else. It's like they're creating their own new traditions and their own way of doing things, and the whole film is about them defining their relationship and
finding their own happy, finding their own
whatever way that
kind of tradition, their own moment, their own unity.
Even if it's Christmas Eve and you're standing in the middle of a square at night in an alleyway and like that's like
that's what for them.
It works, so I think that's quite interesting.
I think it's interesting. And also both movies talk about how people in a way use each other, how what we get out of people having the people in our lives, what we get out of that, and why we do it, it's something that Therese actually like struggles with out loud, to be like, I don't know why I do it, all these things, like my fiance, and like I don't know why do I do these things, and eventually she learns at the end to have enough self-confidence in her view of the world to decide what she wants to do with herself. Same with Colin, little Colin.
What did you think about the ending of Pillion? Particularly that moment where they're in the park and they're lying in the grass.
Well, I guess mega spoilers for Pillion because we're literally talking about the end. But in I think in that moment, kind of like Ray has removed the curtain and let Colin see him for who he is, and he just can't live with that. You know, he can't have that knowledge be out there that he's not good at everything. You know, like for example, there's this moment where Colin is really good at singing. He's part of a barbershop quartet, which is just delightful. Like that's just so cute. So obviously he's really good at singing, and they're just he's like, teach me how to sing. Ray tells Colin. So Colin does a little, what do they call, little bar or something? I know the term in Spanish, but when you're warming up, you go like la, 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 la,
like scales.
Scale. There you go, scale. Yeah. Colin does one, and then Ray does one, but he does it much poorer. So in a way, in that moment, he's like tearing down the image that he's built up of this like hyper capable, super confident, you know, like really peak male. He's showing how it's not true, how it's a farce, how it's all like this very calculated image. And earlier in the movie, they have this Colin has this conversation with this other sub who's like, if I couldn't kiss my dom, I would go crazy. Like, it's so important to me. And so Colin realizes that they never kissed and he wants a kiss. And then they go to the park and they play around a little and they kiss. And
for the first time.
For the first time at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ray has given Colin kind of what he wants, you know? He's submitted to Colin's will, and then after that he just cannot you know, he can't publicly be the image that he's been, knowing that
he's betrayed
he's
what he wants.
he's betrayed it, so he just ghosts him. He just disappears and leaves, which is it's
really interesting. Do you know what it reminded me of? This is maybe a horrible metaphor, but like, you know when like a dog is about to be put down, and like you take the dog out and you'll have like one last great day with the dog, you'll let it run around in the park, you'll let it eat whatever it wants, and it's kind of like he knows that with Colin's gained enough confidence to be able to say what he wants, and he's challenged him on quite a few times towards the end of the film. Like at the end of the film, Colin's always been told to sleep on the ground, but at the end he's like, he goes into the bed without
even asking.
Without asking.
Just
like,
he goes
gets into the bed. And it's like he starts to gain enough confidence to challenge Ray, and like Ray realizes like, oh, I'm gonna have to end this because it's contradicting what he wants as a dominant. And so he decides that the best way to do that is to like take Ray out and give him like a dog that's about to be put down.
And they have to give the dog ice cream.
Yeah, like he's giving him all the things that Ray wants from a relationship, or like what Ray thinks he wants from a relationship. Because at the beginning he's like, I just want to go have brunch on a Saturday with you and like go to the cinema and to sleep in the same bed and to like kiss, you know. And he gives them all of those things on this like one like kind of perfect day. And like when you're watching it, you're kind of in disbelief that it's happening. Cause you're like what's being really sweet and
what's
like
happening
really
here?
Nice and like really like warm, and it's quite like jarring to watch. And then you realize that all of this is kind of like his final like parting gift to Colin, and that's going to be the end of it for him. But I do think it's interesting that by the very end of the film, Colin no longer really wants those things from a relationship. It's like he's tested that with Ray, and then he realized that he actually doesn't really want that. He still wants to be like, have the kind of traditional dom sub relationship. He just wants to have a little bit more in a say of how he's submissive.
He literally says like a day off.
Yeah, I just want
literally
one day off a
where
week.
It's like not this.
Which is interesting.
I have so much to say. I think I'm gonna at one point. I think I'm gonna make like a huge Pillion video because I'm just like obsessed with it. Like, I have not stopped thinking about it since I watched the movie, and I can't wait to watch it again, etc., etc. However, I do want to say how that relates to the end of Carol, right? Because the characters split after, in a way, very similar to the way Ray leaves. They go to sleep together on the same bed after they've been followed by this spy guy who's collecting evidence on Carol for the court thing with Desmond or whatever.
Hodge.
Yeah. And they go to bed together, they sleep, and then in the morning, Carol is gone. So she gives Therese in 1952 ghosting.
Yeah.
But later in the movie, that's not where the movie ends. Time goes on. Therese goes on to stand on her own 2 feet like she never did when she was with Carol. And then at the end, they have 2 instances where they see each other. And one of them, Carol is almost asking like, hey, will you take me back?
Yeah, she's like, I got an apartment in the city, like it's big enough for 2. Like, very much like, hint, like,
yeah, come back.
Come live with me.
And even though Therese says no, or like, you know, she something happens that they don't like actually go through with it, she doesn't kick Carol out of her life either.
No.
She's like, you're this really important person to me, and we had all these experiences, and I value that, you know, like that's something that's important to me. And then the very, very end of the movie, they see each other at a distance and at a restaurant. And the movie ends on this moment of them looking at each other with all of this intimacy and all of this memory and knowledge and love and hate and everything.
Although I don't think the ending is ambiguous. I think obviously they meet and they have this dinner, and then it gets interrupted by this other guy, and then I was going to say Renesmee. Therese starts to like leave, and then she goes to this party, and then she realizes that she actually does want to be with Carol, and like she was in pain this whole time because of their breakup.
Yeah.
And then she leaves this party, she goes back to the restaurant where she knows Carol is, and the final shot is that her walking. Oh, it's so gorgeous!
It's
that
so
shot.
good,
like,
yeah.
She's like walking slowly through the room, and then the people just part slightly, and you see Carol's face looking back at her, and she finds her in the crowd, and there's like a kind of hint of a smile in her face, and you realise that like, this is Therese going back to tell Carol that she does want to be with her, and she does want to live with her in that apartment. And it's such a beautiful ending.
And it's such a good mirror to how they first see each other across the room when she's working. They're in public, you know, they're like public facing, but they have this little secret at first attraction, at the end relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like so beautifully.
Also mirrored in the most beautiful way, where at the beginning, it's Therese that's like standing static, and then Carol's the one that approaches her. She's the one that like makes that move to come over to her.
True.
And at the end, it's Carol is
sitting,
and it's Therese
standing and walking, passive and active.
Yeah, Therese is like walking towards her, very focused, very determinedly, like, this is what I want, like, Carol is who I want.
Yeah.
And I think the name of the film is also interesting, because it being called Carol is kind of like this weird like ownership over, or a kind of slight like mythologizing of this person. It's like, and this is how Therese views Carol. She's like this person that's like on a pedestal to her, and this person that she really looks up to and loves. And the film being called Carol is like, just kind of encapsulates that kind of journey of ownership and kind of agency towards that relationship and towards herself.
I wonder how the book ends. I wonder if Price of Salt ends like that.
I really want to read it.
Yeah.
I do want to read it, especially now that I know it was based on the author's real life. I mean, that's so intense. Like, 1950s situationship.
It's called the Price. Rough times. It's called The Price of Salt, and it's generally just like an economic breakdown of the cost of trade and international exports and imports.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, there's lesbians.
It's like trade war, but also make it gay.
Fantastic Christmas movie, and I guess Pillion as well. Now that we've talked about it, you can't watch Pillion everywhere yet. It hasn't come out in the US, for example. It's going to come out in February of next year.
Actually, I love that this is the first time it's coming out in the UK first, and then the US. Like, normally it's like US and the UK, like generally like 18 months before we get a glimmer of a movie, and it's like
it's BFI, right? Picture House definitely.
Yeah, Picture House is definitely showing. BFI is also showing,
But it's a British production, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if fantastic films to watch on the Christmas holiday.
Great films to watch with your family.
Fun for all kids of all ages.
Pillion. It's definitely not some intimate wrestling scenes that you don't want to watch alone with your dad. But so worth it.
But maybe next year you'll be able to see on demand or on DVD or whatever on VHS, bro.
Unless Netflix has bought the entire industry and you can never purchase physical media ever again.
And then they're gonna own Christmas itself. Hooray.
Legend has it they're trying to trademark Christmas.
No way.
Famously, because it's a red.
No, you're joking. No, you're no, come on. It's not. Bro, no.
Can you imagine? But it's like how Disney tried to trademark the Day of the Dead.
That was so funny.
for Coco. Crazy. So, wouldn't put it past them.
No, wouldn't put it
They
past
did try and put up a landmark in Edinburgh, where I'm from, to commemorate one day. And it's like, what the hell? What are you thinking? And it's on a really historically protected street. And they're like, we want to put a giant red Netflix plaque to commemorate this scene that was shot from one day. And it's like, one
what
was
do you
a book,
mean?
and it was a film before it became a series, and then you it's just insane. The greed of Ted Sarandos will hold me forever.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess that's the end of our first year on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
so crazy.
I think I've got the perfect words to end this 2025.
Yeah.
2025 with. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What a mouse.
What a mouse.
What a mouse, y'all.
What a mouse. Oh, it's quite moving. Yeah, genuinely, what a mouse.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on my clavicles.
Yes.
What a mouse.
The next 2 weeks?
Yeah.